Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of my countdown on my top 10 favorite episodes of Buffy. Okay, guys, so moving into the top 5 now, and coming in at number 5 is another episode from season 2, and it is Halloween. Halloween is a real treat of an episode. Not only does it have some great character exploration and development for literally all of the cast, but it also helps to develop the implications of the direction the series is going in, that romance between Buffy and Angel. Halloween is also one of the most fun episodes in the entire Buffy saga. The premise for the episode is so simple but genius. It's Halloween, and the gang all turn into their costumes after Ethan Rayne cast a spell on them. Whilst it's great to see different sides to the character's personality, this script is also very clever because it also highlights the character's insecurities. Each of them are on their own path to adulthood, and the costumes that they pick are all metaphorical for their own insecurities. Willow chooses to be a ghost, showing that she's shy and doesn't want to be seen. Xander, after a kick to his masculinity from the school bully Larry, dresses up as a soldier in order to show his strength. Buffy, who feels that her role as the Slayer is causing her to lose her childhood, picks a gown that's similar to the period that Angel grew up in before he was a vampire, as a means to connect with him on a deeper level, believing that this is the type of girl he would have been attracted to. And with Cordy, what you see is what you get. She is a sexy cat. And what's great is that Xander, Willow, and Buffy all learn something about themselves, and that is that they all possess the characteristics that they wish to have. The costumes merely serve as a catalyst in order for them to figure that out. Xander stands up to his bully, Willow finds the courage to walk home in a sexy outfit that Buffy picked out for her, and Buffy learns that she isn't a helpless little child anymore, and the damsel in distress look does nothing for Angel. Also, we get a glimpse into the darker side of Giles with the first mentioning of Ripper. Spike is also in this episode, which adds another extra layer of excitement, and there is loads of hilarious moments in this episode that I adore, such as that brilliant scene in the library where Willow steals one of Giles' books as Buffy distracts him. It's like an odd screwball comedy sketch.
A demon! A demon! It's not a demon, it's a car. What does it want?
And Willow morphing through the wall and giving Giles a fright of his life. Jesus! So yeah, guys, the reasons that I love this episode so much is because it's so sweet and gleeful, and you have so much fun with it. There's some great character development for all the cast, and it's a brilliant idea that is brilliantly executed.
Hi, honey. I'm home.
Coming in at number 4 is another episode from season 2, and it is School Hard. This episode is so great because it added a much needed vibrancy to the show's villains. All the previous vampire antagonists, such as the Master, Luke, and the Anointed One, were all kind of bland and paper thin. Then in comes Spike and Drusilla, and all of a sudden the show has a new lease on life. Spike's badass Home Sweet Home entry is probably the best ever introduction the show has ever done. And then we get a glimpse into his character. He's devilish, intelligent, charismatic, and then Drew shows up and he's tender and affectionate. But you can tell in this amazing introduction scene that Spike and Drusilla really love each other, even though they're cold-blooded undead creatures. Something we hadn't really seen before on the show, just only heard about between the conversation between Angel and Darla. I love this little shot where Drusilla drinks Spike's blood and they share this intense, almost sexual stare. It's just perfect. So this episode sees Buffy put in charge of the parent-teacher night, and it addresses all the different lives that Buffy has to juggle. This episode looks greatly at the coming-of-age balance of responsibilities one must face as an adult. As Buffy says, she can study and slay and party and do parent-teacher night and make her mother proud. It's a feeling I felt all too often in my mid-20s, trying to balance all my different roles, responsibilities, and lives. It's one giant plate-spinning task, and every now and then something topples over. In this case, it's Spike colliding with all of Buffy's roles: student, slayer, and daughter. And when Spike crashes the parent-teacher night, the episode just surges with even more energy and tension. In the end, Spike learns a valuable lesson about Buffy in comparison to the 2 previous slayers he's killed before.
A slayer with family and friends. That sure as hell wasn't in the brochure.
Those connections to family and friends are what make her stronger because they are there for her, and in this case, it's Joyce.
You get the hell away from my daughter.
Oh, brilliant. School Hard is a very exciting episode, but it's also a very funny episode too, with some of my favourite lines such as,
"Wow, 2 centuries of dating. That's still like 400 dates with 400 different... Why do they call it a mace?"
But you haven't seen the boiler room yet, and that's really interesting, what with the boiler being in the room and all.
And then there's Willow's reaction to Buffy's homemade lemonade.
It's very good.
It's very good. It's hard to think that an episode as funny as this was not written by Joss Whedon. School Hard is just exhilarating. It brings new energy to the show in the form of Spike and Drusilla. It also gives us more backstory on Angel, and the resolution of the episode just makes me all warm inside. Joyce ends up proud of her daughter Buffy, and it's partly due to her attributes as a slayer. And then Spike kills the Anointed One by lobbing him into a cage and hurling him into the sun, cementing his status as the new threat in town. Right, final 3. Here we go, guys. Okay, guys, so you all know that this episode was going to make it somewhat onto the list. Taking the first spot on my all-time favorite episodes of Buffy is the all-singing, all-dancing, spectacular episode, Once More with Feeling. I could talk about this episode for hours. Heck, I could even sing the entire soundtrack to you. But there are so many reasons to love this episode. Literally, all the songs in this are so well written and catchy, and they pay tribute to so many different types of musical styles. And the fact that Joss Whedon penned the songs himself just adds more charm and hilarity to this episode. And weirdly, it's almost a perfect companion piece to Hush. Except instead of losing their voices, the gang are forced to reveal their deepest, darkest fears, insecurities, and secrets through song and dance. Once More with Feeling could have easily been written off as a gimmicky episode, but arguably, it's one of the most important episodes in terms of character and plot development, as well as emotional payoff. All the songs were just a means to do that, albeit in a fresh, amusing, and innovative way. And now it's become one of the most talked about and sung about episodes of all time.
And you can sing along.
Every single song carries such volume and character insight. Even though they might seem quite cheerful and catchy on the surface, if you break each song down, you'll find that there's a lot of dark subtext to the lyrics, as well as a lot of foreshadowing of what's to come in season 6. In the opening song, Going Through the Motions, Buffy sings about how numb she feels now that she's back from the dead. And yet the arrangement of the song almost feels like a Disney princess style song.
Every single night, the same arrangement. I go out and fight the fight. Still I always feel the strangest estrangement. Nothing here is real, nothing here is right. But I've been going through the motions, walking through the part. Nothing seems to penetrate my heart.
Those are bleak lyrics just disguised as cheerful optimism. Tara serenades Willow with such a moving song about how she brought her out of her shell. But what's tragic is how accurate her choice of lyrics really are, because they carry a double meaning. Willow has violated and abused Tara's mind with a memory spell.
Now I'm bathed in light. Something just isn't right. I'm under your spell.
Oh, poor Tara, it was such a beautiful song. And there's also some foreshadowing.
But your power shone brighter than any I know.
An indication of just how powerful Willow is going to become. And how about that not so subtle sexual innuendo, Joss?
Lost in ecstasy, spread beneath my willow tree. You make me complete.
Xander and Anya have the happy, campy, we're getting married song. But again, it's riddled with doubts.
That's why I'll never tell her that I'm petrified.
I've read this tale, there's wedding then betrayal.
And Joss, thank you so much for this brilliant line.
His penis got diseases from a Shumash tribe.
Spike vents his frustrations towards Buffy and how she treats him like a dog. Giles worries that he's holding Buffy back from the role of adulthood. And Dawn continues to feel isolated. My personal favourite songs are Walk Through the Fire, Standing, and Under Your Spell. Probably because they're sung by cast members that have stronger singing voices. In terms of plot and character development, Tara learns that Willow erased her memory.
I'm under your spell.
Giles decides to leave Sunnydale for good. Buffy reveals in song that she was in heaven all along to the gang.
There was no pain, no fear, no doubt, till they pulled me out of heaven.
And Buffy shares a kiss with Spike in order to feel something, starting her on a path of self-destruction, using sex as a means to feel something other than dead.
This isn't real,
You can make me
but I just wanna feel.
The payoff in Once More with Feeling is just incredible. Any one of these developments would have been juicy enough, but having them all come in this episode just amplifies how great this episode is. Having all these characters we love sing their hearts out about their hardships and secrets is so touching. But it's also a lot of fun too. You can tell that Joss poured his heart and soul into crafting this episode. And even though it was a risky move, the attention to detail, the creativity, and the clever writing is what elevate this episode to be one of the best in the entire series.
Maybe midgets.
Alright guys, so almost done now and I'm down to the last 2 episodes. Oh, and this was so hard to decide what to put at positions number 1 and 2. It really was between 2 episodes, okay? And I love them both so much, but in the end I had to pick one to be crowned as my favorite. And the one that I picked for number 1 just has a little bit more emotional oomph for me and just makes me cry a little bit harder every time I watch it. But that's not to say that number 2 is any less impactful or heartbreaking. It's still a masterclass episode of TV, and it is Becoming, parts 1 and 2. I know it's a little bit of a cheat because it's technically 2 episodes, but for me, I've always viewed this as one long episode. And it is because both parts work together in order to tell one big story. It's almost like a TV movie. Becoming is the end product of a glorious season of Buffy. And I just previously said that it felt like a TV movie, which is, this whole episode feels very cinematic. It needed to be 2 parts in order to tell the story as effectively as it does. Part 1 establishes the scenario. Buffy is finally ready to take down Angelus, but he has other plans when he finds the tomb of the Kaffler, a demon that when awoken will open up a vortex and swallow the world. Willow and Buffy find the curse to restore Angel's soul, and Kendra is sent back to Sunnydale after a dark power is about to rise, that being Angelus awakening a Kaffler. So Angelus orchestrates a plan to isolate Buffy from her friends in order for them to kidnap Giles, who might be able to help them with the ritual for a Kaffler. Buffy figures it all out at the last second, but it's all a bit too late. So part 1 sets up the building blocks of what this episode's going to be about, and then part 2 comes in like a wrecking ball. Becoming stands out as such a highly regarded episode because it amps up the emotional stakes.
I call it Mr. Pointy.
No, not those kind of stakes. Buffy's entire world comes tumbling down around her. Her friends are injured, Giles is kidnapped and tortured, Kendra is killed, and Buffy is wanted for her murder. Snyder then expels her, and then Buffy is forced to come out and reveal her Slayer identity to her mother. Joyce refuses to accept it and then kicks her out of her home. Again, like in School Hard, this is that idea of plate spinning multiple lives. The student, the daughter, the friend, the Slayer. Except this time, all the plates come crashing down. But even when Buffy has nothing left to lose, she is still Buffy. And the whole arc that this season has been building to can be summed up in one interaction with Angelus.
No weapons, no friends, no hope. Take all that away, and what's left?
Me.
Oh, that's such a brilliant moment. And Becoming Part 2 is so darn good because of the emotional payoff. There's a real sense of looming destruction both intimately for Buffy and globally because of the awakening of a Kaffler. But it's also an epically romantic, action-packed finale. What with the dueling lovers' sword fight, the momentary redemption of the villain, the kiss on the precipice of absolute destruction, and the heartbreaking sacrifice of the hero. It's all an exhilarating, nail-biting, heartbreaking hour and a half of TV that still leaves me in floods of tears after watching it. So thanks again, Joss. Becoming Parts 1 and 2 is one of your best works of all time. And so is number 1 on this list. Right guys, so this is it. Out of all 144 episodes of Buffy, this is my favorite episode of all time. Only narrowly just being up Becoming, but my favorite episode of all time is the monumental 100th episode of Buffy, and that is the season 5 finale, The Gift. An emotional, action-packed powerhouse of an episode that would have been such a fitting conclusion to the series if they decided to end it here. So why did this beat out Becoming? Well, like Becoming, which was the culmination of a season's worth of build-up, The Gift was the end product of all 5 seasons of Buffy combined. Joss Whedon's idea for the series was to show the transition from childhood to adulthood, and all the monsters were metaphors for all the personal demons that Buffy and the gang would face. And it's in The Gift that this journey becomes fully realized and completed. Whedon gives us a reminder of this journey by showing us a clip from every single episode in the previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And we see all the characters, the monsters, and all the plot developments that have happened over the last 5 years. And then we cut to a dark alleyway and we see a young man running from a regular vampire. Buffy then intervenes and is surprised to find that the vampire has no idea who she is. She kills the vampire, and then the kid asks,
"How'd you do that?"
"You're just a girl." To which Buffy then laments.
That's what I keep saying.
Oh, it's such a great moment because it's such a great poignant reminder of the fundamental core of the show. And it was Joss's idea for the series to begin with. The dark alley, the blonde girl, the monster, and then the blonde girl kicking the monster's ass. Buffy was just a girl, but she was so much more than that. She was powerful, yet vulnerable. And we've watched her grow from this young girl into this young woman. And there are so many reasons why The Gift is such a masterpiece. Like Becoming, the emotional stakes in this are so high. But instead of Buffy's romantic love interest being on the line, this time it's something far greater. Family. This time it's her little sister, her blood, her kin. In a sense, it's a much purer form of love. And season 5 was such a consistent and cohesive season, which collectively brought all the episodes together to paint a broader and intricate canvas. Unlike all other Joss episodes that are featured on this list, this episode has so many great moments that just give me goosebumps and chills.
I know you never loved me. I know that I'm a monster. But you treat me like a man.
Oh, start welling up every time. As well as Willow's awesome badass confrontation with Glory.
You, what are you doing here?
She's with me.
And then Giles killing Ben in order to spare Buffy from murdering a human being. It's a really great moment for Giles because it just shows how far he'll go to protect Buffy and her humanity. All of those are just such incredible moments, and like my inner fanboy just loves rewatching them over and over and over again. And season 5 also had my favorite villain of the entire series, and that was Glory. Claire Kramer did such a sensational job playing the ditzy, hell bitch, goddess, valley girl. God, she was so much fun to watch. She brought so much dread and comic relief to the series as well. And I relished every moment that she was on screen. You born in a barn? Can you fly? Look what you did to my dress, you little... And the final showdown between Buffy and Glory was awesome. I do love a little bit of girl-on-girl action. Plus, you've got to love Buffy with a troll hammer. But it's the last few scenes of The Gift which solidify this as my favorite episode. Dawn's blood is spilt and the portal then opens, and only once the blood stops flowing will it close. Faced with an impossible choice to let her little sister die in order to save the world, it's only then that Buffy finally figures out the message that the First Slayer gave to her, that her death is her gift to Dawn and the world, giving life to her sister that was never really hers to begin with. It is here that Buffy relieves Dawn of that responsibility. She makes her choice, and by leaping from the tower, she saves her sister and the world, and our hero's journey is complete. This scene is so perfect because everything comes clear both for Buffy and us, the audience. Her epiphany is ours, and the grief of the gang is ours too. Think about the themes of season 5, okay? Blood, power, death, family. All of these ideas come together in this scene. Ever since Buffy vs. Dracula, we've been given clues that Buffy's blood is going to be an intricate part of season 5. Her blood is laced with Slayer's strength, power, and life. And the monks made Dawn out of Buffy. It is their blood that ties them together. Remember earlier in the season in the aptly named episode Family, Tara's dad says,
"We are her blood kin. Who the hell are you?"
To which Buffy responds,
We're family.
and to Joss Whedon, family isn't necessarily the thing that you're born into. It's about the people you choose to surround yourself with and love. The family that you make for your own. And this applies to Dawn as well, because she may have been made by mystical and magic powers, but she is still a part of Buffy. And it's in this moment where we see the sun rise that Buffy finally figures it all out. And because Dawn is a part of her, in some sense, she will live on in Dawn, which is why she says, "Be brave, live for me." And Dawn represents Buffy's childhood, and it's here that the transition from childhood to adulthood is complete. After a season of watching these two characters bickering at each other like hormonal teenagers, and enduring the loss of their mother Joyce, it is here that Buffy steps into the role of responsible adult and chooses to give Dawn a life of her own. Her death is symbolic in a sense of the end of her childhood, and the self-sacrifice that one has to make as an adult. It's the culmination of not only a season's worth of plot and character developments, but the entire central premise of what the show was about. That shot of Buffy leaping into the portal is the defining moment of the entire series, paired with that majestic and heartbreaking score from Christoph Beck. It transcends from not only just a powerful scene, but to one of immense depth, symbolism, and emotional payoff. 20 years on, and I still cry every time I watch The Gift. If Spike's gonna cry, I'm gonna cry too, okay? And as we close in on Buffy's epitaph and we read, "Buffy Summers, beloved sister, devoted friend, she saved the world a lot." It is the perfect summary of Buffy as a character, but also Buffy as a TV series. The Gift for me is so perfect because it delivers a thrilling conclusion to the whole of season 5. It completes the journey for Buffy's transition from childhood to adulthood, and to this day it still has the same level of emotional and dramatic impact that it did when I first watched it back in 2001. And that's why it's my #1 choice for my favorite Buffy episode of all time. Right guys, there you have it. That is my personal top 10 favorite episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What did you think? Do you agree with my list? Do you think there's any episodes that I should have included that aren't in there? If I'd have done this list 10 years ago, episodes like Band Candy and Tabula Rasa would have definitely made the list. But like I said, as you get older, you tend to appreciate Buffy differently. So that's why I want to know what your favorite episodes are. Or if you just want to have a rant about Buffy, do comment below, because I'd love to hear from people that are just as passionate as I am. Whatever you guys think, do let me know in the comment section below, or you can catch me here on Twitter. Thank you so much, Joss Whedon. This show helped me through some difficult patches, and I'm sure for many people watching, they've also gone through some dark times, and this show has helped them. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah guys, thank you for watching, alright? If you do like the videos, please don't forget to subscribe, okay? For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.